before we do, just want to remind you that we are in the period of the Omer, the 7 weeks between Passover and Shavuot, which is a period traditionally set aside for reflection, for spiritual and ethical growth, with particular attention each week to a quality, a sphira, a midah. This week is the week of chesed, a loving connection. And just to refine it, each day of the Omer involves a permutation of the primary theme of the week, which is loving connection this week, as well as a minor note or complement or a lens through which we experience that midah of one of the other sphirot. So very quickly share the chart, which indicates that yesterday, the third day of the Omer was, we're in this week of Chesed here. Each day of the week is complemented by one of the Sfirot, and today is the fourth day of the Omer, the week of Chesed, so it's Netzach Sheba Chesed. And I would like to turn it over to my friend and colleague, Rabbi Robin Damsky of In the Garden in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, who's led us many times through this journey, and I know is also offering as a special offering that she is teaching through under the auspices of Chazon. And I'll let Robin say a word about that and turn it over to Robin to lead us in practice today.
Thank you, Mark, as always. It's really a pleasure to be here. And I appreciate the wonderful introduction that you gave to the Omer. It was inspiring me to hold this up. I wondered if I should have sent this as part of my screen share. I didn't. But what you can see here is the interrelationships between the Sfirot, which sometimes gets complicated. Just to finalize what Mark had said, yesterday, I should say Tuesday, I began a 7-week journey with Chazon and my new project, Limitless Judaism. Through the Omer, we're meeting 7 Tuesdays at noon. Unfortunately, it's a conflict of time. But if you're drawn to it, I'm going to be pasting the link in the chat, and we're doing a spirit, body, earth connected experience of the Omer to do our best to bring it into wholeness. So going back to this journey, what I want to share is that I began doing this practice probably in the late 1980s. And it's a practice that really speaks to me because the way that it was introduced to me was through Rabbi Ted Falcon. And he works with body parts connected to each of the different sfirot or midot or character traits. And I'm a body worker, so it was really helpful for me to understand these energies as they connect with our physical bodies and our emotional bodies. And what I was just sharing with Mark before we began today is that I'm a little anxious because the more I learn, the less I feel I have any grasp about this whole process. And so I'm going to share with you today my glimmerings, I guess, things that I understand and things that I'm reaching to understand. And I'm going to take some risks, a particular risk to use sound in a way that I haven't before. So hopefully it'll be something that will be useful for us all. So Adi, if I could ask you to bring in a screen share of today's texts. Thank you. So as Mark mentioned, we are in the week of Chesed. And the week of Chesed is perfect to begin because it begins with loving kindness, the emanation of God of loving kindness. And so often we think about loving kindness that we're giving out. We want to be gracious to others. And if we imagine that we've just left Egypt, we're unformed, right? This is God's loving kindness coming into us. And it's coming in specifically in the area of the right shoulder. And each sphira is also connected with a color. I've seen both white and silver connected to chesed. I love the idea of white for so many reasons, because in light, white holds all colors. And I love the connection to this journey of freedom, where we are not only seeking freedom for ourselves, we can't experience freedom for ourselves unless there is freedom for all people of all backgrounds. And I'll add to that freedom for our planet and freedom for all that grows in our world. So we have this gift coming into us, this sourcing, if you will, of loving kindness. And it's filling us up with possibility. Particularly, right, loving kindness is an emotional possibility. So I'd like us to allow that to kind of just set in for a second. And you'll notice here that there's a sound, which is ah. Okay. I added a component, a connection to the earth. I'm playing with this, so it's not refined. And if other people feel, no, that's not right, please toss it in the chat. That it seems to me that the Gaia element here is light. So this is a little bit about the foundation of chesed with which we will continue today. And the nuance for today is netzach. So you would scroll down, Adi, for us a little bit. Netzach is a fascinating concept because it's not as condensed in where we would connect with it in the body. It's often said right solar plexus. I've got my hand here on the right solar plexus, but also could go all the way down into the right leg. So we're working with an energy that starts not in the heart, not directly in the solar plexus, but just right of the solar plexus and going down the right leg. The color here is light pink. Notice what I'm wearing today. I've got the white, the silver, and the light pink. I thought I would do my best to bring these in. When we think of the solar plexus in terms of chakras, we think of yellow. So this pink may seem different. We'll get to that. The quality is perseverance, but I want to precede that a little bit because whereas chesed is this emotional, beautiful, loving kindness coming in, netzach is the energy of physical vitality coming in. Physical vitality that has not yet been differentiated. So we're working with two energies, this beautiful divine energy of loving kindness coming in as, I think, a balm or almost like a cradle holding us. And then we have this other energy of the beginnings of activity that has not yet been selected into a particular form. So we're in a sense of formlessness on both of these sphirot. The sound here is awe. And I thought about the word awe when I thought about this sound. And perhaps there may be a connection, or we might find a connection as the emotional energy connects with the physical energy of discovering more of a sense of awe for ourselves, for our literal lives, for our vitality and our vibrance. And I thought of this perhaps as wind. Why did I think of this as wind? Because I thought about what's moving, it's energy. And I thought about wind. So again, I'm open to your thoughts on how this might connect to the Gaia. And I'd like to look at the meditation just a little bit lower on the text sheet, if you would, Adi. This is a meditation for today from Rabbi Ted Falcon in his book, A Journey of Awakening, which I really, really recommend. I experience creating emotional, right? That's the chesed, and physical vitality, the netzach, that fills me now with renewed possibility and purpose. I appreciate these gifts that live through me. I bless them and discover new and fuller ways to express them in my world. Forgive my typo. There are no limits to the energies now available. And I think this is so key. There are no limits to the energies now available. Today, I honor the new possibilities for self and for the world. So, in just a moment, we will begin our meditation practice. And I often invite people to assume a sitting position. Given this day, you might choose that also, and or you might choose a reclining position in honor of Pesach, or in honor of allowing yourself to deeply, deeply, deeply receive chesed. And we will journey together. I will bring at some point some toning in, which I will invite you to either receive or join. And then we'll have just a little bit of silence before we complete with the bell. So whether you are sitting or reclining, in whatever position feels right for you today, I invite you at first to bring your awareness to your breath. And if there's any holding that becomes very clear to you, just to see if you can allow that to release. If it feels right, you can close your eyes, or if it's more comfortable, allow your focus to soften. Either way, I invite you to soften the eyes in their sockets. Allowing us to contact the deep, deep nervous system. With greater ease. And when it feels right, I invite you to bring your attention to your right shoulder. Notice what's there. Does it feel open and receiving? Does it feel tight or constricted? Still easing the enslavements? Is there pain? Is there appreciation? And as you create an awareness and a relationship with this right shoulder, see if you can allow yourself to envision a sphere of white light. In your shoulder, around it, almost massaging into the flesh, into the tissues, deep, deep, deep. Beneath the ribs even. Collarbone. And on an inhale, see if you can allow yourself to recognize that flow of divine energy that is pouring into your right shoulder. the divine energy of loving kindness, of mercy, washing away the memories of slavery, healing the wounds that we have walked with this last year in the pandemic. The personal wounds, the cultural wounds, the wounds of hatred, sickness, death, fear, and uncertainty. And bring more of that light into your right shoulder, basking your shoulder in this beautiful, loving flow of protection, of holding, almost like the womb, which protects us in loving kindness until we're ready for birth. And now allow your attention to flow from this right shoulder down, down to the middle of your belly on the right of your solar plexus, your right hip, right leg, perhaps all of these areas, or if one of them feels particularly appropriate for you, allow your attention to rest there. Feel the vibration of your life's energy. And see if you can see a ring, a sphere here of light pink. Perhaps you see a sphere in one part of you. Perhaps you see a number of spheres traveling all the way from the solar plexus through the leg. Allow the divine energy of physical vitality to seep deeply into these tissues. Helping you to become aware or recognize the possibility of purpose. Helping you to appreciate the gift that is this very life, this very body. Perhaps you feel energy moving from the area on the right of your solar plexus down through your leg. Perhaps even back up in a circle. Enervating your physical expression. And now when you're ready, I invite you to see a beam of light pouring from the right shoulder into the right area of your solar plexus and potentially down your leg, and then beaming back from the solar plexus to the right shoulder. And if it feels right for you to do so, you might move your right shoulder some, expressing that energy, and perhaps even move your belly some, expressing that energy, and seeing what it feels like to bring your right shoulder towards your right solar plexus, or maybe even a little bit towards your right knee. Making friends between those two areas. Sound of the chesed in the shoulder is ah. I invite you to listen, to sing with, to do whatever seems right for you. Ah, ah, almost like a lullaby. The ah of loving kindness, of nourishment. And the awe of Netzach. Oh, 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 oh. It feels more grounded. The ah feels more ethereal. Oh, and the connection of the two. The light of chesed pouring into the light of Netzach. The light of Netzach pouring into the light of chesed. And we'll take a few minutes of silence. Make that a few moments of silence.
Thank you so much, Robin. A beautiful teaching. Look forward to unpacking that some more in a few moments. Friends, we take a few moments to support each other and support especially those who are in mourning or observing a yahrzeit, an anniversary of death, or are grieving for any reason, and invite you to put the name or names of those you are holding in your heart today in the chat box now or after Kaddish. And thanks to Adi for putting the words of Kaddish on the screen, and invite those of you who are participating to rise in body or in spirit and to join me. Yitkadal, Yitkadash, B'mei Rabah, Yamad, Yibrash, B'rikei, Yamif, Malchutei, Kaye Chon, Yemechon, Ukaye, B'al Beit Yisrael, Ha'agala, V'zman Karev, Yerev, Amen. Shnei Rabba Barak, Amaya, Yitzrach, Shabbat, Har, Yisrael, Har, Elam Kol, Birchata, V'shirata, Thank you all for your presence, and kol hakavod for simply being present, showing up, your dedication to this practice today. We'll be back tomorrow at the same time, of course, 12:30, to sit into Shabbat, into the weekend, into Shabbat and the end of Passover, and invite you to join us for that. Thanks to Adi Stein, as always, for holding our tech container with grace and skill. And thanks to Rabbi Robin Damsky of Limitless Judaism. Gotta change my intro for you, Robin, right? Looking forward to some conversation with Robin in a moment. You're invited to stay on for that conversation. If you have questions you'd like to put to her or share reflections on your experience today, you're welcome to do so. And for those who are leaving us, I want to wish you safety and health and blessings for the rest of your day, and hope to see you soon, if not tomorrow. Okay, Robin, thank you for taking some risks. That was great.
Thank you.
So if people have questions, I'm going to try to keep an eye on the chat box. As always, please preface it with question in caps if you can. It makes it easier to keep an eye on that. Robin, one of the things you said that was very effective for me was, I don't remember exactly what the wording you used, but it was to the effect of dropping down into our nervous system, or connecting or contacting the nervous system. And I wonder if you would say a little bit more about what that means, like what you mean when you say that, or how you experience that. What does it mean to connect with what's called our nervous system, and what's the role of the nervous system? Like, why do we want to do that? Like, what does that do for us?
So good questions. And I'm going to start with a very brief story of when I began to meditate, which was through IJS. I was in a place of I was not physically well. It was the result of hyper stress, which I realized eventually was PTSD, and I couldn't calm down ever. It felt like, that fight or flight never went away for me. It was like always running like this. And I found this in an Iyengar yoga book, which I've been using for over the years as part of a Shavasana, a resting practice. And it talked about softening the eyes in your sockets and eventually allowing your eyes to look down towards your heart, which takes your attention away from the active mind. And what I discovered over months of doing that is that something happened. There are different levels of nervous system. The autonomic nervous system is where is where we have the fight or flight. And when we allow ourselves to simply soften in the eyes, my personal experience has been that it allows the deep, deep workings of our whole brain spinal cord to cease behaving in the ways that they are used to reacting. And we can actually, by allowing ourselves to contact that deeply, retrain simply by allowing. We can allow those tensions, those patterns, those reactions to breathe and to feel and unwind. And over time, we actually have the capacity to allow those patterns to completely disappear. Doesn't mean that it will happen instantly, and doesn't mean that it might not take a very long time, but we don't necessarily get activated by that which we got activated by before. And the capacity of that for healing our physical well-being is immense. Does that help?
Totally. That's fantastic. I was going to say, worth the price of admission alone. It really is. Well, there's overlapping audiences here. There are people who are currently engaged in our awareness and action program where people taken it before, but even if you haven't or never will, the basic principle about these sphirot or midot is that they are present. The idea is that these qualities are present within us. And as you're describing it, that flight or fight reactivity that creates a clenching, a tightening up, which prevents those from being able to flow through us. And you guided us beautifully, kind of using the imaginative function to imagine light flowing like through the right shoulder, down the right side into the solar plexus. Once one lets down one's guard, and you started off by admitting that you were a little nervous, a little uneasy, right? And yet you put down the defense. If you went with your defenses, so like I can't do that. I'm not going to do those. I'm not going to do those sounds. But if you're willing to let down the defense and go with it and let it flow, right? Then something happens, as you're describing. There's a shift, and that was really beautiful.
Thank you. And I want to say that I think a lot of us understand the concept that I shared with regards to meditation in general, that it gives us the opportunity to not always go into our knee-jerk reaction. Even if it's not about fight or flight, it could be a knee-jerk reaction of how we tend to respond to people, but it's really react to people in particular situations. It takes work. It takes training. Yeah. And I think that's why, it's called a practice. But it's a practice that has the most immense ramifications, which is why I do it and why I teach it.
Mm-hmm.
Before we get completely off field, there was a question from Julie about what is Gaia? And Gaia is from the ancient Greek. It's the Earth Mother. Mm-hmm. So when I talk about Gaia, I'm very aware of and it's critical to me to connect our essence, our well-being with the well-being of the planet and the recognition of the planet as it comes into us. And that's not just the planet, but it's the air and it's the sun and it's all of creation. So hopefully, Julie, that helps.
That's great. Also, I was thinking, Melissa mentioned that she asked the question yesterday about the details about where these sphirot are located in the body. And I said, yesterday I said, I don't want to get too down in the weeds about that. So, but I was really glad that you did today, because it is, it's extremely helpful. It's just another tool. So I want to say both a caution that for people for whom this is entirely new, the whole idea of sphirot and what are we talking about, and the different parts of the body and the colors and the sounds. It's quite complex, or it can feel complex, and it can feel very intimidating and maybe off-putting. So we want to lower the bar and say, let's keep it really simple. This is the week of Chesed. So if that's what one needs to do, that's great. And if you're interested and open to the more complex, some of the complexities that are involved, that's great too. And today, I think hit the mark on both, Robin. Both for people in general and also more specific.
Right.
Speaking of specific, Wendy wants to know where the solar plexus is. And she
Solar plexus.
rarely wears pink, but she was wearing pink and silver today.
Solar plexus is right here. It's like the center of the belly, right underneath the diaphragm.
Mm-hmm. So when we're breathing, and we can feel the expansion of the belly, that's, if you can put your hand where you feel the
right under
belly expanding.
right under where the ribs start to.
Mm-hmm.
And we often think of the solar plexus as connected to will. So it's fascinating that the way the Kabbalah understands Netzach is this as yet unexpressed or undefined physical energy.
Mm-hmm.
So it hasn't actually had the decision maker of what to do with it placed upon it yet.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, for what that's
Yeah, it is. It's worth. So to go back though I think it's worth, especially since we have you and this is, I know, an area that you're especially interested in and expert in, the connection between the body and the planet, as you were describing. That was the other thought that came to me when you were talking about the nervous system, is that is a recognition of the connection between our nervous system, the whatever one would describe as the planet's nervous system. That is the energy that we share with the planet as a point of connection, instead of seeing it as other than us or separate apart from us. That what's going on within us clues us in to what's going on in the planet and vice versa. That's my top of my head take on that. So is that
That's exactly.
Is that what you're talking about?
That's exactly where Limitless Judaism was born. That our well-being affects the well-being of the planet, and the well-being of the planet affects our well-being. And when you were talking about the nervous system of the planet, the vision that I had is the mycelium of the mushrooms and some of the trees that literally connect under the ground. Mycelium have created this network all over the planet. And then the rivers and the arteries and the deep core of the earth, we could look at this and use a lot of the words that we use to describe our bodies to describe parts of the earth, and vice versa. I mean, this is our trunk, right? This is our trunk. And I think of our body as the eighth hind he, that, these are the branches, and that coming out of the fingers and maybe coming out of the skull are the flowers and the potential fruits. So she is a tree of life, we say about the Torah. And I see that we are that tree, as well as that tree is literally behind me and outside.
Right. Love that. It's also got implications for how we approach and understand Torah study as well, right? Because we are, that becomes another opportunity for exploring the connection between ourselves, the planet, the cosmos as well. Right. Thinking also about, that the what we often lose, but I have a sense that you don't lose so much, is the connection with the agricultural roots of holidays like Passover, which, it's literally, its roots are in, the cycles of the season, the cycles of the earth, right? And
yes,
it's no coincidence that we start with love and chesed at a time when and the Song of Songs when things are in bloom.
Things are beginning to grow, yeah. And the whole connection there with the Omer series with Chazon is we literally planted seeds together yesterday, and we're going to be watching them throughout the 7 weeks and see how they begin to take form. The tradition of the Omer agriculturally is that Passover was the ripening of the barley, and Shavuot was the ripening of the wheat. So very, very, very agriculturally earth-based holidays.
Yeah. How's your garden looking?
It's starting. I mean, we've had a lot of frost warnings in the last nights, considering we had 80 degrees last week. So it's a beginning. It's a beginning this year. It was a late season getting started. This time last year, I had quite a lot already up and moving. I see a question here about Tiferet. I understand that that Tiferet is connected with the heart. Let me just
The
confirm
heart.
that.
Yeah. While you're looking, I put in the chat box a link to a website by it's Rabbi David Seidenberg's website, neochassid.org, which
Right.
is really good. By the way, and he's the one who, by the way, did the kind of creative translation of the Kaddish, which we don't read so often these days, but is under the Aramaic of the Kaddish that we read. And he has a nice little description there too. What were you going to say, Robin?
Yeah, no, I was just, David Seidenberg, Rabbi Seidenberg has been doing um, eco mystical Judaism for a really long time. He's an old friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a nice website, and I took a look at, as you were talking about it, I took a look because he specifically links it with each sphera with a chakra and the part of the body. Yeah, you could spend a lot of time on this stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, is that we have to decide at a certain point. We have to make decisions for what, I'm going to go with this because it resonates with me. And I've been using this book, which is on the source sheet, Rabbi Ted Falcon's A Journey of Awakening, and he uses Tiferet as the heart space, and so does Rabbi Daniel Matt in his Pritzker Zohar. So that's where I sense it. One of the things I just want to say, because especially for people for whom this might be new, is I've seen this in this book and I've seen it in other places, that there are people who actually take this 49-day journey at other times of the year that they want to go through for some particular reason. Maybe they're healing from a disease, or maybe a child is getting married, or maybe they're getting married, or they're planning a move, or they've just moved. And so this journey has been used by people's Jewish and non-Jewish at other times of the year as a way of helping us become more spiritually connected and able to manifest what it is we hope to manifest.
Somebody's asking for a link to Ted Falcon's
in
book.
chat. Yeah, it's on. If someone would type that out, well, I'll do it. It's on the source sheet.
Yeah.
So, A Journey of Awakening, Rabbi Ted Falcon. It's a great little resource. And there's more in it than you can use. So each time, just like Torah, something will say, that I can work with. That speaks to me. Next year, oh my gosh, I didn't see that last time.
Yeah. All right, we're at time. Robin, I wanted to even get to talk about the sound, which so next time. Right.
And I'll just say at that one point, when I was working with this earlier in the week, I also had the of like the groaning, like the groaning of the slavery, and maybe just the of thank God, thank goodness we're able to move on. So I think there's lots of play in these sounds. I hope it was something that people.
That was great.
Found meaningful.
Great. That was great. All right, everyone. We'll be led tomorrow by my friend, my colleague, Rabbi Sam Feinsmith. Look forward to that. Thanks, Robin. As always, it was wonderful. And thanks, Adi, and thanks to all of you for being here. Hope to see you tomorrow to sit into Shabbat together with Sam. And if not, then next week. So, Moedim L'Simcha to everybody. Much joy.
Thank
Blessings.
you. Bye, everyone.